Assalamu alaikum students. In this lecture we will discuss
Genital
the
abnormalities of the placenta
may be associated with respect to the position of the placenta, or it may be related to the attachment to the wall of the placenta, whether it is attached superficially or it is attached to the full thickness of the wall of the uterus beyond the endometrium, or it may show abnormalities in the shape of the placenta. Sometimes the size of the abnormalities is size of the placenta is abnormal. It may be small, it may be large, and we will also, in addition to these abnormalities, we will discuss the different variants of the placenta, and finally we will discuss the erythroblastosis fetalis. First of all, we will discuss the abnormalities with relation to the position of the placenta. Normally, the placenta is attached to the posterior superior wall of the uterus. This is the number one most common position. Second one is the anterior wall, but sometimes it is attached lower down in the uterus near the internal os. And that is the abnormal position. When it is very near to the internal os, then it is called placenta previa. This situation is called placenta previa. It is of three types. When the edge of the placenta is reaching the edge of the internal os, this is internal os, mean internal opening which leads into the cervical canal. If it is reaching up to the placenta is reaching up to the margins of the internal os, then it is called marginal placenta previa. And if it is partially covering the internal os, like this one, most of the placenta is not covering the internal os, some part is covering the internal os, then it is called partial placenta previa. And if the placenta is completely covering the internal os, most of the part of the placenta is adjacent to the internal os, that will lead to the total placenta previa, and that is the most serious condition. During the second and the third trimester, there will be on and off vaginal bleeding. Patient will complain. The complication of this condition is the antepartum hemorrhage. That is the bleeding before the process of the birth, during the last period of the third trimester, and that especially happens when there is a just before the parturition there is a start of dilatation of the internal os, that causes stretching of the placenta and lead to disruption of the placenta before the birth, and that will cause heavy bleeding, and sometimes the bleeding is so much that the blood to the fetus is compromised. This condition is also very serious with relating to the condition of the mother, and the solution to this problem is the caesarean section before the time of the delivery. So elective caesarean section is the solution of the condition. Then the abnormalities with reference to the attachment to the thickness of the uterine wall. Normally the placenta is attached to the up to the decidua basalis. But if it is attached to the full thickness of the endometrium, then it is called placenta accreta. Placenta accreta. And if it penetrates deeper and deeper into the muscular layer of the uterine wall, then it is called placenta increta. And if it penetrates still more and reach up to the perimetrium, the outermost thin layer of the uterine wall, then it is called placenta percreta. The complication of this situation is the retained placenta, which leads to the postpartum hemorrhage. And sometimes you have to curettage, and sometimes you have to totally remove the uterus to stop the bleeding, to save the mother. Then the abnormalities of the shape. Normally the placenta is circular in shape, but sometimes it may be oval, fusiform, crescentic, or bilobed. Bilobed is a separate full entity. Abnormalities of the size, small size, is called placenta malacia, and it is associated with the chromosomal abnormalities of the developing fetus. And if the weight of the placenta is more than 600 grams, then it is labeled as placentomegaly. And primary cause of the placentomegaly is the maternal diabetes mellitus and also the RH sensitivity. We will discuss it later on in detail. And this placentomegaly is associated with maternal anemia, twin transfusion syndrome, fetal anomalies, and intrauterine infections. Then the different placental variants. First of all, the placenta sexcenturiata, in which there is an accessory lobule is present. It develops from the, normally you know that the primary villi initially develop all over the chorionic sac, but later on due to the expansion and stretching of the decidua capsularis, most of these chorionic sacs will degenerate, and only towards the decidua basalis there is a proliferation and the growth of the chorionic villi, leading to the formation of the placenta. But sometime adjacent to the main placenta, the chorionic sac shows villi, where the villi normally degenerate, but here they don't degenerate, so leading to the formation of a very small piece of the placenta, which is very adjacent to the normal placenta, and between the two parts there is a bridge of only the vessels and a very thin membrane. So the main placenta is connected to the placental lobule by means of the membranes and the blood vessels. And as there is a lack of water jelly around these membranes, there is no supporting structure, so the vessels may rupture and may lead to the hemorrhage. Another problem with this is the retained placenta, especially of this accessory lobule, because after birth, pull of the umbilical cord pulls up the cause disruption of the main part, but the small accessory lobules may remain attached due to the rupture of the vessels. Here there is no pull on to this accessory lobule, it retained there and may lead to the postpartum hemorrhage. So sometimes you have to curettage after birth to stop that postpartum hemorrhage. This is another diagram of this same. This is the main placenta, and then that is the accessory lobule. Bilobed, the difference from the previous one is here that almost two equal size, two equal size masses of the placenta are there, and almost cord is attached to both these parts. So this is called placenta bilobed placenta, and the both lobes are attached to one another by a thin bridge of the membranes, as there is a pull to both the placental masses after birth, so no identified risk. Circumvallate placenta. Here the chorionic plate is smaller than the basal plate, mean the fetal part is smaller than the basal plate. So edge of the chorionic membrane rolled in from the margins. These are the margin, and they are rolled in from the margins with the cup-like attachment of the amnion on the fetal surface of the amnion. Here amnion is attached on the fetal surface. The result will be the membranes double back over the fetal surface, and complication resulting from this situation is the placental abruption and the hemorrhage. Then is the placenta membranaceae. Dear students, as you know that initially the chorionic villi form all over the chorionic sac, but later on the chorionic levy and the chorion frondosum develops due to the degeneration of the villi on the under the surface of the deciduous capsularis. But sometime all or almost all parts of the chorion membrane is covered by the chorionic villi. That is placental cotyledons, and placental mass result will be the thinning of the placental mass. It may be only 1 to 2 centimeter thickness, which is a very thin one, and it is usually associated with placenta previa, and the complications are the placenta previa, intrauterine growth reduction, recurrent antepartum hemorrhage, and second trimester miscarriage. While the postpartum complication relating to this placental membranaceous condition is postpartum hemorrhage and the restrained placental tissue. Battledore placenta. Normally the umbilical cord is attached to the center of the placenta, but sometimes it is attached to the margins like this one. It is not attaching to the center, rather it is attaching to the margins of the edge of the placenta, and that condition is called the battledore placenta. The same condition, normal attachment almost to the center, and here it is attached to the edge of the placenta. Then the placenta filamentosa. Cord not attaching directly to the placenta, rather it is attached to the membranes, which in turn are attached to the placenta. So the cord attached to the membrane at some distance from the margins, and vessels then run on those attaching membranes for some distance before reaching the placenta. This part where the vessels are attached to the membrane and run on those membranes, then reaching up to the placenta, this passage is very vulnerable to traction and may lead to bleeding due to the absence of the water jelly around the vessels here. So no protection to the vessel due to the absence of the water and jelly. Traction or pulling may lead to the bleeding and may lead to the antepartum hemorrhage and sometimes very serious. Finally, the erythroblastosis fetalis, which is also called the hemolytic disease of the newborn. Normally there are 400 RBC antigens are present, but most of them are inert. But sometimes the mother is Rh negative and the developing baby inside her is Rh positive. This usually does not cause any problem during the first pregnancy, but it will lead to many problems in the second subsequent pregnancy if the fetus is Rh positive. The Rh antibodies develop in the mother in response to the Rh positive fetus, and that condition will lead to isoimmunization, and the antibodies will cause hemolysis of the fetal RBCs, which will lead to the erythroblastosis, and also the release of the large amount of the bilirubins, which may cause brain damage due to the accumulation of the bilirubin in the basal ganglion of the brain, and that condition is called the kernicterus, which is a very serious condition. Sometimes the anemia is severe and it will lead to the edema, and that condition is called the fetal severe anemia. Fetal hydrops and the result is the fetal death. Example of this, I have already told you, erythroblastosis is the Rh incompatibility, because single exposure during the first pregnancy is time of the delivery or due to any disruption in the part of the placenta causes mixing of the fetal and the maternal blood. So single exposure of the maternal blood to the fetal blood is enough, and reaction occurs very earlier, and severity increases with each succeeding pregnancy. To prevent this, injection to neutralize those antibodies are given to the mother within the 72 hours after the delivery of the first baby. Dear students, this concludes the lecture on the abnormalities, congenital abnormalities of the placenta. Thank you so much. Allah Hafiz.